And welcome back to coverage here of the MPL Gauntlet. We've got one more seat to give away for the World Championship. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm joined by Cedric Phillips. We've got Riku Kumagai and Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. You know, they've both had a long, hard-fought battle here, but Cedric, it really does just come down to this last qualifier match to decide who gets that seat.
Last one, best one. And this one, it should be good.
Incredible stuff here from both players. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz is somebody who's really proven himself as one of the top players around, and he's looking to solidify that with a second appearance at the World Championship. And for Riku Kumagai, you know, not only has he burst onto the scene in the last, say, year and a half, and really impressed a lot of people with his play skill and deck selection, but also he's kind of carrying the load for a potentially historic performance here by these players. His teammates, incredible. 3 of them were in the MPL Gauntlet, 1 of them in the Rivals Gauntlet. And 2 of them have already taken the first 2 seats of the 3 potential here in the MPL Gauntlet. And Riku is now playing to secure that last seat. And there's even a world where the 4th player, Kenta Harane, could take that down tomorrow, and they could take 4 for 4 seats, the perfects. But right now, Riku, of course, thinking about himself, he would like to be the one in there. The team's already had a super impressive performance, but just one more match to go for Riku Kumagai.
Yeah, it's off to a pretty good start here for both players. Pretty reasonable hands here for both players. You see Kumagai with Expressive Iteration, with Substantiate, with the Prismari command, but we do have a key a key rogue on the battlefield.
That's an honest mistake.
Pardon me. A key rogue on the battlefield there in Soaring Thought Thief to get the party started.
For players of our generation, they are very similar decks.
I know.
The Blue-Black Fairies deck from Lorwyn has a lot of similarities, playing at instant speed, lots of counter spells and interaction, and annoying little threats to get in there.
I just dated myself back to 2008. I apologize.
That was when I was first learning the competitive scene, and I remember watching players play at the local level with that deck and being a bit overwhelmed by it, to be honest. You know, the complex stacks and stuff. Okay, I respond, I'll do this, you know, cryptic that. Got a little bit much. Now, there's a similarity here, but the Rogues deck has a similar role in that it tends to pick on decks that are trying to do big, slow things. Now, is that what we're seeing here, right? There's this kind of value/combo deck in the hands of Kumagai. Does he want to see Rogues on the other side of the battlefield?
In some instances, yes, and some no. I think for the sideboard games, absolutely. I think he's got a good sideboard plan with Phoenix of Ash, and we've seen Cub Warden come in the matchup and other things like that. So I think he can get a little bit lower to the ground and be less clunky in game number 1. Not an ideal situation, but it really does kind of depend on what Jean-Emmanuel's draw does look like. And this draw thus far for Jean-Emmanuel is not the best we've seen from a Rogues deck thus far. It's a little slow out of the gates, not a lot of cards in the graveyard, all that jazz. These end of the stories, well, they're going to be good at some point because it's an incredibly powerful card, but they're not very good just yet. So not the best draw here for Jean-Emmanuel, even though the hand is loaded up and a Temple of Deceit Scry is resolving. Power Word Kill could be a relevant one over the course of this game. We'll have to see. It looks like it's going to stay on top. For Kumagai, the hand is, again, fine. Expressive Iterations, plural, have a lot of work to do. Let's make it 3 of them now.
Yeah, extra plural there. First one's going to go on the stack here for Kumagai. Now, he has managed to land a Vadrak on the battlefield, and that's going to do a good job at the minimum of holding back this Soaring Thought Thief, which it did on that last attack step. Jean-Emmanuel just had to pass the turn back with the big stop sign sitting there on the other side. And, of course, we know that Vadrak is also a great target to start getting mutate triggers going, and can even be a key part of the combo to win the game without having to attack at all. There's a protection spell as well. There's a Jiri Shelter going into hand here for Kumagai. And as long as he has that Vadrak up, there's no great attacks here for Jean-Emmanuel, and he's going to be able to lean on these, well, now in this case, a Lord Dracus, but also these copies of Expressive Iteration that you just mentioned, said, as he can really just get ahead on cards over the course of the game.
Looks like we're going to see a Drown the Lock. Well, thought about it, playing Drown the Lock here. Okay,
that'll work. You know, the Power Word Kill was lined up here, but Drown the Lock, fine. Somehow Vadrak doesn't have any of the creature types that Power Word Kill can't hit. You'd think it would be, like, you know, if you had to bet, you'd think it would be a dragon, but it's a cat.
You'd lose that bet.
Dinosaur also. It also is an elemental. It's a little weird.
Well, Sajiri Shelter doesn't show up a ton, but this is a spot where it does.
That's right. Huge there to protect it, and Jean-Emmanuel is going to be happy that he's got the backup plan sitting on top of the library there. Let's see how things go from here, though, as we see Vadrock triggers ×2. There's Seize the Spoils, and then right back into hand goes the Sajiri Shelter. It isn't castable at the moment, though, right? Not right now.
Not right now. Lot to think about. What card are we going to discard? Looks like maybe an iteration. Yeah, okay. Goldspan, another spoils. Okay.
Wow. Lot of action here for Riku Kumagai. Certainly not short on that. To finish off the end step here for Jean-Emmanuel, he gets to run out one more creature, Thieves Guild Enforcer, and now he's going to draw the power word kill. And with just the one treasure available, remember no gold span on the battlefield, so that's only worth the 1 mana. Wow, that actually put the last card in the graveyard as well to pump up the team. And this ends up being an attack for 6 plus another couple of mills. Down to 14 goes Kumagai. The question is, can Jean-Emmanuel protect this board state? And currently the answer is not so much. He's got double into the story, Soaring Thought Thief land in hand, but only 3 mana available right now, so no way to react.
Yeah, and I think this is the big issue, right? Is that these Into the Stories have finally been turned on, but they're a little late. You know, obviously you'd like to have 4 mana up right now as opposed to 3 to resolve it into the story, then untap with those 4 new cards, plus a 5th card coming from your draw step. But we're not there just yet. There is a consolation prize, of course, and another copy of Soaring Thought Thief to add to the battlefield. But as far as stopping Kumagai from what he'd like to do with this very powerful Jeskai Mutate deck, that's not going to happen on this turn.
Land drops continue to flow for Kumagai.
Big question was, what was he going to do? And he didn't really do much of anything.
He really didn't do much of anything, and Jean-Emmanuel can add another Soaring Thought Thief to the board here, and that represents a lot. It's another 5 power he could add. And Kumagai's going to have to do something. Yeah, he's going to use Prismari Command to at least take out Thieves Guild Enforcer just to stem the bleeding a bit here, but double Soaring Thought Thief is a pretty quick clock. Jean-Emmanuel going to crack Fabled Passage here. And let's see what he can find with his draw step. It is a Drown in the Lock.
Good try.
That's a nice one to pick up here. That's the type of card that can help him protect this board state and push through the last damage with these Soaring Thought Thieves. Wow, what a draw step there. He also can play his land for the turn and have Into the Story plus Drown in the Lock. Down to 8 falls Kumagai. So still in there, he can take some hits. And it looks like Jean-Emmanuel is deciding whether he wants to pay for Luris tax or be able to play Into the Story. Yeah. It's hard to say because, you know, Luris represents a rebuilt board state on its own, but Into the Story's 4 cards, which could open up all types of doors for you. Here's Goldspan Dragon on the stack, and this is going to be met with Drown in the Lock. Is there an Unsubstantiate up there for Kumagai to protect? There is.
There is an Unsubstantiate. I believe there was a Negate in hand. My eyes may have deceived me there a little bit, but
okay.
How do we battle over this? I guess we just unsubstantiate our Goldspan back.
Yeah, and then you just have to wait.
Yeah, which is pretty tough because you're facing down a decent chunk of damage.
That's right. You would fall down to 2 here, assuming that your opponent doesn't have anything to add to the board. But, you know, it gets really sketchy from this point because if Jean-Emmanuel goes like Into the Story into Thieves Guild Enforcer, it's just GG.
Mm-hmm. It's getting hairy.
Wow, that Drown in the Lock was nice for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz.
Best draw on the deck.
Yep. He really needed some way to maintain this lead. And look at this. Kumagai just has to let it go.
Oh, so you probably got to unsub this now, which stinks, but you probably have to.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't get your opponent draw 4 cards. That's a good draw, too.
Wow, another hard counter for the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone, though. Now, Jean-Emmanuel only knows about 1 card in hand for Kumagai, but that gives him that insurance plan because now he gets to hit him down to 2, and then either of these 2 cards get in, and he can win the game. One step closer here for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz.
Yeah, Soaring Thought Thief kind of hits this like really nice sweet spot of being like 3 toughness, being a flyer. Like there's a lot of things about it that are pretty nice. Obviously, it's an turn threat as well, so it lets you kind of play this reactive game, but lets you continue to be proactive when it's actually on the battlefield. So it's a great threat in this particular matchup, and Depraz found 2 of them.
So is there any way for Kumagai? He's going to go for Seize the Spoils. Currently no way for Jean-Emmanuel to interact. He could fire off into the story to try to find one. Well, that's not quite good enough. He found a Vadrock.
So let's see, you cast this.
1.
Well, so you cast this, then you can Lord Dracus onto it.
And then if you have a removal spell, plus you have Sajiri Shelter, you might be able to not die.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And none of this can get stroked. Now, the whole end of the story thing, well, we're not going to talk about that right now.
Right.
Because we can't worry about that right now.
That's not that he does not have the capability to worry about that particular card. I would not be surprised to see Jean-Emmanuel fire it off here. Disdainful Stroke. Good insurance for a dragon, but not for a elemental dinosaur cat, as it turns out. Here's into the story on the stack. And he finds another Drown in the Loch. Boy, he also finds another Soaring Thought Thief as well as a Thieves Guild Enforcer. He could just let it go. No, he's going to go for Drown in the Loch here on Vadrock straight away, and that should lock things up for him. And that is game number 1 going to Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. He puts his fists in the air because he knows that that is one very big step towards that last remaining seat here for the MPL Gauntlet at the World Championship.
1 win away. 1 win away in a matchup that is definitely good for him game 1, but take a look at that sideboard there for Riku Kumagai for game number 2. In Cub Wardens, in Phoenix of Ash, in Saw It Coming, in a solo copy of Test of Talents. Going to get some of these lesser cards out. Unsubstantiate, not at its best in this matchup. Cinderclasm, which has been an MVP for these Jeskai Mutate players all weekend long, not at its best here. Into the Royal, Seize the Spoils, also not an A+ here. So those are going to go out for cards that are significantly better. You take a look at Jean-Emmanuel, you're going to see a couple Skyclave Shades come on in, a Dispute, and a couple other ins and outs with Cling to Dust and Timber. But most importantly, those Ruin Crabs are going to go away for now. So one thing to note about those Ruin Crabs leaving, because they're not their best in this matchup, is that Into the Story might be a little bit more difficult to cast in these sideboarded games.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. But I definitely see what you're saying there, Cedric. The minor upgrades for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, where there's some big hitters coming into the sideboard here for Riku Kumagai. Let's see if he can fight back here in game number 2 and try to force it. It feels like every time we cover Riku Kumagai, he's down a game. Like he has been scrapping back every single time. And that might actually speak to his sideboard plan, right? It might speak to the fact that his deck has a very good sideboard plan, but maybe game number 1 for him is a little sketchy. Let's see what happens. There's a Merfolk Wind Robber to kick things off here for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, looking to just please let me win this game, find myself in that World Championship, secure that big money seed, and get a chance to become the world champion. And right now, Kumagai looks like he's deciding whether he wants to ping down this Merfolk Wind Robber. It's certainly tempting, and he's going to do so.
Okay, well, Wind Robber down, but Thieves Guild Enforcer looks to be up and ready for battle.
So it's going to hit the battlefield here. We see a Dragon and an Essence Scatter hit the bin, but the Wind Robber says goodbye.
Thieves Guild Enforcer, I think, the better of the 2 threats. I think it's hard to argue otherwise. Not that Wind Robber's bad, of course, but I would say that Thieves Guild Enforcer is the better of the 2.
Especially at this juncture, right? You'd much rather just have the ability to get the cards flowing into the graveyard a little quicker and also start to beat down. Now, we can see that Kumagai has an interesting choice here. He's got really 3 options. They all look pretty good. He could just simply kill the Enforcer with Fire Prophecy. He could develop his hand, mana, etc. with Expressive Iteration, or he could just cast Vadrock.
Yeah, there are 3 very, very real options right now with the opponent tapped out, and how do you want to make your move to progress this game in the early stages of it? It looks like Vadrock is the way we're going to go. Does demand an answer.
Is there one? Power
I mean,
Word?
Jean-Emmanuel doesn't seem thrilled about having to kill this right now. I think he can, but he doesn't seem thrilled with the prospect of doing so at this stage.
I wonder what he's worried about. You know, I mean, that seems kind of thing you'd be pretty happy about. Just, hey, I got an answer for that right now. Get it in the yard, chip in there, call it a turn. You're even up on mana a little bit.
I'm curious to see where Into the Story is going to go. As I mentioned, it's going to be a little bit harder to get the necessary cards in the graveyard to turn Into the Story on, and that's why I'm not that surprised to see it go to the bottom. Ruin Crab out of the deck. You haven't had a Soaring Thought Thief draw to put a ton of cards in the graveyard, so that Into the Story was going to cost a lot of mana as opposed to being the discounted, insane 4-mana draw for that it oftentimes is. So I'm not that surprised to see that one pushed aside. I already have one in the hand as well.
Right, one is enough. You know, at this point. Oh, what do we have here from Jean-Emmanuel? Okay, he is going to go for Power Word Kill. Once again, that's going to take down Vadrock, chip in for 1 damage, pass the turn. So, again, I saw what you did too, Sid. He didn't seem super thrilled about that, but it was a productive turn. He got a tap land down, he got in for a damage, and he killed a Vadrock at a mana advantage to himself.
And his hand's still good.
Yeah.
You know, Into the Story isn't turned on, so it's not the best hand we've ever seen, but you know, past that, Kling's fine. You can always add Lurch. You got Drown the Lock, not fully powered up like we've seen it before, but probably powered up enough to be a relevant card over the course of the early stages of this game. So, you know, the clock isn't the fastest. It's just a 1/1 Thieves Guild Enforcer, but everything else, pardon me, is going all right now for Jean-Emmanuel.
Looks like 4 cards in the graveyard here for Kumagai, so still a ways to go before the Thieves Guild Enforcer gets active. A little bit less so for Into the Story, but still. Okay, so it looks like Kumagai is going to take a pretty non-impactful turn once again. And he's just going to foretell his counterspell here. And that's pretty telegraphed as well. Jean-Emmanuel is going to know the deck list and know that that's pretty much the only option it can be.
Heartless Act, that's going to be relevant. It's just he's got the disruption, both proactive and reactive. Thing that he doesn't have right now. He just doesn't have a clock.
No pressure. Yeah, he doesn't really have a way to get more cards into the graveyard to even make this Thieves Guild Enforcer a clock on its own. You know, when it starts chipping for 3, it adds up pretty quickly, but 1 is just not enough. And he's really just let Riku Kumagai kind of use his mana in pretty non-impactful ways so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see if Kumagai's plan is to just, if it's just land go, to just go ahead and kill this thing with Fire Prophecy. Ooh, especially if it's going to be Lurrus into hand, and then he may want to hold on to it.
Yep. Lurrus does change the dynamic. Now again, we saw coming being foretold, right? How good is Lurrus, right? Because, all right, I'll just counter it. We have the counter war over it. Like, saw it coming couldn't be more applicable as far as a card name for both players.
Right. Yeah. It is aptly named in this case. And Kumagai says, you know what? You can have your 1/1 Thieves Guild. I'm not even going to bother. Like, what? Why? Right? Yeah. It's hitting me for 1. I don't care. You know, there's an impetus to use up your mana, right? Like, you just kind of feel that natural pressure in such a powerful format like Standard where you just want to use up your mana. But there's times when it's incorrect to do so. And that was one Kumagai.
You just think you can do better.
Definitely. Okay, well, this is big. Expressive Iteration goes on the stack here for Kumagai, and right now Jean-Emmanuel doesn't have any way to fight back. So Kumai's going to get to see some cards here and maybe start to put together a bit of a game plan for himself. He saw 3 lands this time.
I was going to say, this was not the best expressive iteration.
No, he'll be happy to clear those cards off the top of the library, but it didn't do a whole lot. You can see his hand has turned into triple land Fire Prophecy. Now, the Fire Prophecy, he's going to start feeling some pressure to use that just to get rid of one of these cards from his hand. But nope, he's going to stay patient, take the damage, and pass the turn back. Now he draws Spikefield Hazard, so he can kill that Enforcer when he wants to. But, you know, it's done a grand total of 4 damage here, so he just hasn't really felt the need to.
Still just chipping away, one at a time.
Yeah, you said it. There's no clock. This is just not a clock to really consider. And there's another expressive iteration here for Kumagai.
Well, can't do much worse than the last one, so...
Yeah. Oh, he's just going to pass a turn here.
Well, that makes some sense to me because I think if you just were to cast an expressive iteration that turn, it probably just gets countered by just some straight counter spell.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like, I think expressive iteration, you might want to play that alongside like a 2-spell turn, like that plus like a Vadrock or, you know, something else instead of just like, hey, this is all I have.
Yeah, he doesn't want to fight, right? He doesn't want to use the Saw It Coming here.
I don't think so.
Good God, another land. Well, he's certainly doing fine on the mana advantage, mainly because he's flooding and hasn't missed a land drop all game.
Yep,
all right, here's finally something from Jean-Emmanuel. Hello. Sorry, Thought Thief on the stack.
Yeah, finally, one of us did something. This card matters.
Right, and I think it's pretty funny because I think they both could look at it and go, yeah, there's at least something happening.
You got to battle over this. You can't let this hang out.
Yeah, I think he's considering using the Spikefield Hazard on the Thieves Guild Enforcer.
Okay.
I mean, he has answers to both of these cards.
Because in the back of your head right now, if you're Riku, you're thinking about 2 cards, right? In my opinion. I think you're thinking about Luris for obvious reasons. It's in your opponent's hand. It's incredibly powerful. If I'm killing stuff and that resolves, they get to replay something, and I've effectively done nothing, right? So that's number 1. Second card you're thinking about is Into the Story. Because you're always thinking about how many cards are in your graveyard. You know that card is going to remain in your opponent's deck after sideboard. And it's an incredibly impactful draw spell. So you're probably just wondering, okay, how many cards I have in my graveyard? How impactful is this? That's why you might see the Spikefield Hazard in response to the Soaring Thought Thief right now. So let's not let that trigger happen. And then now it resolves, you Fire Prophecy it away, and you leave up Saw It Coming still. So this line of thinking makes a lot of sense to me.
Same. And Kumagai, having drawn so many lands, still has another one in his hand that he can discard to the Fire Prophecy for some value here, assuming that he wants to. He does, in fact, do that, and he finds a Lord Dracus. Okay, nothing doing much with that at the moment, but at least it's a spell.
Now, you probably saw that now Into the Story went from being a very expensive card drawing spell to a completely reasonably costed card drawing spell. It's down to 4 mana.
Okay, well, why don't we pop back to the booth here for just a minute? We actually have to just do a quick restart on the stream. We do apologize for that, so allow us to do that just briefly here. Do we need to take a break to do that? All right, we're just gonna get it off the screen for a second here. We will be right back into the action here. Said, if you had to snapshot this game where we're at here, Jean-Emmanuel a little bit ahead?
A little bit ahead, potentially pulling very far ahead. So the way I'm looking at this game is this Saw It Coming is kind of queued up for that end of the story. But Jean-Emmanuel, to recap people really quickly, just drew a 6th land. So the ability to play Into the Story, Saw It Coming tries to counter it, draw on the lot, counters back, peel 4, have Luris in my hand, play Luris, play something from the graveyard, pull ahead that way. I think that's kind of where this game is headed. And if that's the case, this is not good news for Riku Kumagai at all. And that's what I'm kind of foreseeing happening now over the next turn cycle or 2.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too, because, we did see the Saw It Coming there for Kumagai. So you could imagine that hitting the end of the story, in which case we have Jean-Emmanuel a bit ahead on board, thanks to the Soaring Thought Thief, if it were to survive. But if that end of the story resolves, it's going to be really tough for Kumagai. Okay, we can head back down into the action. Thanks for your patience. Everybody at home, we just want to make sure that we get this stream the best we can here.
So nothing's really changed.
Yeah, so you can see the Soaring Thought Thief did get killed there. And now we have back over on Kumagai's turn. He is resolving an expressive iteration. Oh boy, there's some action.
So we actually found real cards this time, as opposed to the 3 lands we found last time. So
right, 3 spells this time, and he's going to have to be picky about them. And you can tell how much a copy of End of the Story is dominating the thought process of both of our players here, as even at this relatively late stage in the game, Riku Kumagai is going to take a Mystical Dispute to help him fight that fight. And now he's also going to put Phoenix of Ash onto the stack here, and it's going to resolve. Now, there's a Cling in hand here, Cling to Dust for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, but that only works if he can get that Phoenix of Ash into the graveyard.
Mm-hmm. So now the tide turning a little bit here. Again, I do believe that we're going to have a fight over the card Into the Story, just because of how powerful it is when it only costs 4 mana. And players' life totals are still very high. 4 new cards for Jean-Emmanuel would be fantastic, because when is 4 new cards ever not fantastic? So I like where we are, and here's this battle that I foresaw coming.
You did indeed. Now, this is interesting because with only 2 lands left, Mystical Dispute does act as a hard counter here, in that Jean-Emmanuel must react to it, and he's going to play Drown on the Lock on Mystical Dispute, but that means that the Saw It Coming could counter Into the Story. But if that happens, Jean-Emmanuel is going to have a heyday here. He could get a good Lurrus turn, right? Lurrus into Soaring Thought Thief, for example.
Oh boy.
And if he has a land, he can Lurrus into Thought Thief and have Drown in the Lockup.
All right, so I see the thought process here a little bit from... So Kumagai, this is the ultimate rock in a hard place, right? Because you counter this, Lurrus is resolving. Lurrus gets back a thing, and you don't know that your opponent has Heartless Act, Cling to Dust, Drown the Lock, which is, kind of the nuts in a spot like this. So there might be a part of you that says, like, all right, I'll let Into the Story resolve. Hopefully you don't peel 4 good ones, plus your draw step. So that's basically 5 new cards. Hopefully those aren't good. And then I'll counter your Lurrus. But, like, I don't know. I'm not letting my opponent draw 4 cards and then a 5th one for their draw step. Like, I'm going to fight back against it as best I can and hope that I am able to overcome the Lurrus.
Yeah, by the time it's your turn, you will have drawn 5 cards. But here's my play. I hope they're not good, right? Like, that is not going to work out. But it really was rocking a hard place, and the hard place is on the battlefield now. There's Lurrus to the Dream Den, bringing back the Thought Thief, plus a land off the top means that Drown in the Lock or Heartless Act are available on top of it. And this is Jean-Emmanuel Depraz taking another step towards the World Championship. Remember, he's up a game, and he is getting very close to closing this thing out. An Into the Story off the top or anything like that, he could just blow this game wide open.
Iteration is a great catch-up card here, because you kind of think to yourself, okay, if you're this is the kind of card that, like, you don't want it to get countered, but if it does take a counter out of your opponent's hand, it's not bad, because you have this Lord Drakis in hand as well that can get a little something going too. So that's 1 less Drown Lock you have to worry about. Again, doesn't know the contents of Jean-Emmanuel's hand and the Heartless Act and Cling to Dust, which are both, again, pretty darn good, but you've got 1 less Drown Lock to have to worry about right now, which is nice. Now, you still haven't solved this Lurrus problem, but baby steps.
Yeah, the Lord Drakis could definitely open up a lot of options here for Riku Kumagai. This is getting very close. This is an important turn. Jean-Emmanuel is completely tapped out. I don't believe he has any other targets in his graveyard right now for the Lurrus either.
No, I think Spikefield's taking care of the other ones.
Right.
Yeah, for good. So here's the Lord Drakis. You mutate, you trigger.
Do you just go for the iteration here and just try to build up some type of resources on your side? I mean, you're out of cards. Yeah, that does seem to be the line here from Riku. Oh boy, this is a big expressive iteration here for Riku Kumagai. This one could definitely dictate what happens over the course of the next few turns, and that's what's going to dictate who wins this match. Wow, there's a lot of action there as well.
Yeah, I think you take Goldspan. Yeah, you take another Lord Drakis here. This all makes sense to me. You play another Lord Drakis. Yep, so you mutate again, which means you're going to mute. That means it's going to be double triggers, right? So you get two more Lord Drakis triggers, which means you're going to get 2 cards back. I'm getting this mutate thing down.
Wow,
last round of the day. I'm getting it down.
Jean-Emmanuel is just devastated here. I mean, he knows how close he was to pulling ahead in this game, and now all of a sudden it's tilting right back over in Riku Kumagai's direction as he's assembled this mid-range value engine that we talk about. Look, this isn't necessarily him being able to combo off. He doesn't have the dragon in play that generates the mana to allow you to continue to do this over and over. But what an incredible turn there for Riku Kumagai.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're Jean-Emmanuel, you peel off an end of the story. Life is good. He didn't. He peeled off a Clearwater pathway, which is not what he was looking for at all. So the attention goes back his way right now. Looks like he's going to play Heartless Act on the Lore Drakis. And this game, I mean, we are going up and down and all around, Marshall. This one's getting good.
Yeah, this is a sweet game. It really looked like it was creeping toward Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, but that is not the case anymore. And look at this. He's going to start getting frisky here, firing up the Eye Tyrant, getting in there with everything. That is a lot of damage. It's 8, only at 15 is Riku Kumagai, so he can't take another hit like this.
It also clears out the Phoenix as well.
Right.
Which is pretty nice.
Okay, this is huge. Here comes Expressive Iteration now for Riku Kumagai. Oh, and look what he's got here. A lot of action. The Cub Warden as well as a Prismari command. He's really been hitting with these expressives now.
Bottom side. Okay. Dragon. Yeah, because Jean-Emmanuel, I mean, he's on E. He's got to cling to dust and 1 mana open, so you don't have to worry about anything in his hand. You're clear for takeoff to do whatever the heck you want to do right now.
That's right, and with the dragon attack, you'll have 4 mana available as well.
Hasn't played a land yet, I don't think.
You're right, he hasn't, so he'll have up to 5 mana. Okay, he's going to get in the red zone here.
Yeah, that's step 1. That's the, quote, easy part, unquote.
Yeah, he just needs the mana. He's had a pretty precarious life total down to just 7. But there's a Cub Warden, and this is with Mutate. That will create 2 1/1 lifelinkers on the ground.
Yep.
Now that can help block either the Eye Tyrant or Luris.
And I like this
there's a Fire Prophecy for Luris as well. And with 2 blockers and 7 life, this is a pretty safe position here for Riku Kumagai.
It's about into the story again right now.
It really is. He needs to rip it. Is he just going to cycle this Clean to Dust to try to get a little deeper?
I think so. Because that's what it's about now. It's about, I need help. My Luris is gone. So my companion card advantage engine, that one's all gone. So I need to get rippy, plucky. Let's get a little lucky. Not great.
Nope.
Not
and
great.
nope, though that is a Wind Robber. That should give him another peel here.
Okay.
Oh, God. The thing is, he knows that he just can't keep passing the turn back. Like, he's got to find either a way to kill that dragon or draw a bunch of cards to overwhelm with advantage, because Riku could just go off. Cling to Dust helping out a lot in that regard, but Riku taking that middle line where he just got a lot of advantage, even if it wasn't infinite. Okay, here comes the Soaring Thought Thief. Down to 5 goes Kumagai.
That's one thing you always have to remember. You don't have to worry about anything like a lightning bolt or direct damage. If they're going to kill you, it's going to be through actually just attacking and blocking. So,
ooh, Lore Drakis off the top of the library for Kumagai.
Yeah, that's a nice draw.
Oh, man. Riku has Island, Lore Drakis, Prismari command in hand.
Clock becoming a bit of an issue now for Kumagai, under 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to note, especially if he's going to win this game, which, you know, we had to take that short break. I thought we were doing well if you were Jean-Emmanuel, but that was not the case. Things changed very, very quickly, which that's all part of it when you're playing against this Jeskai Mutate deck. It's so powerful that things do change on a dime, it feels like.
That's right. Prismari command is going to force the issue here. On the 1/1 flying Wind Robber, that's going to get sacrificed to draw a card. It ended up being a Soaring Thought Thief. And Prismari command is actually going to try to upgrade here. It's going to be draw 2, discard 2 for Riku Kumagai. Remember, he can put the Prismari command into the graveyard, no problem, because he can get it back if he can find a Lore Drakis, and he did.
It's pretty intense.
Now, what is this play all about?
This is Soaring Thought Thief, and then are we maybe blocking?
It's only 3/3.
Yeah. I mean, that can block one of the 1/1s, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, might as well, I guess. Jean-Emmanuel's doing math. That's never good if you're sitting in Riku Kumagai's seat.
Yeah, I guess the thought process here is right is, I can block one of these 1/1s for free, more or less. Okay, I have a Thieves Guild Enforcer as my last card. Opponent doesn't know that, and I might be able to sneak across the finish line. But with the life gain from the Mutate via Cub Warden, now Riku's up to 11.
Yikes. Yeah, because that Thieves Guild Enforcer could come down and block the other attacking cat, but he wants to keep it hidden. And here's Vadrock going on to Goldspan Dragon, and Jean-Emmanuel Depraz just winced when he saw that.
Yeah, it's starting to become too much now.
Yeah, because he was trying to sneak out a win, just like how you described, Cedric, where like he's like, hey, I'll flash this thing in and block. I don't have anything else, I swear. But really, he has 4 power, 5 power of Thieves Guild Enforcer kind of in hand here. But this is just getting overwhelming now from Riku Kumagai.
Yeah, I think that was the trick there, as you mentioned. Just try to get a little sneaky with that Thieves Guild Enforcer. He's also got a creature land in the holster, too. And he's like, surprise, I've kind of got you with a bunch of damage essentially out of nowhere. But that's not how it played out. And the escaping here of the Cling to Dust is just going to net a land. And so, Marshall, I think we are clear for takeoff now with this Goldspan Dragon, Lord Rakkus, and everything else that happens with the Mutate engine.
That does seem to be the case here, Cedric. You see the triple triggers going on the stack. There's 1/1 lifelink cats being thrown around the battlefield. There's cards being cast for free, and there's cards being returned from the graveyard. And it is a well-stocked graveyard on top of that. And all Jean-Emmanuel can do is look on. Now, he was so close to that seat this game. He probably had that feeling in the back of his head, like, I really think I got this. And he's going to have to do everything he can to buckle back down, because it sure looks like we're heading for a game 3 between these two.
Yeah, we had that brief moment there, where Riku Kumagai was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to counter this into the story. And it's a really good thing, I think, that he did counter that into the story, because that one is just too much to overcome. Yeah. And over the past couple of turns, that was Jean-Emmanuel's best draw. He wasn't able to find it. Riku was able to kind of cobble together a little something with those expressive iterations. And now you see where we're at. It's the point of no return that no one wants to see when playing against Jeskai Mutate.
That's right. Now, clockwise, we're at about 10 minutes here for Riku Kumagai, which is plenty of time. He will want to, if he is able to combo off fully, he'll want to be brisk about it, just to make sure that it doesn't become an issue in game 3, assuming he wins this one.
Yeah, there should be plenty of time here. He's got a nice little setup here with all these tokens, sitting at a healthy 11 life. Wow. Agadeem's Awakening. Well,
is there any mill potential here?
That is something you got to think about. There's a 1, 2, and a 3. Are we going to potentially steal this? Now, there is mana available for Test of Talents.
Oh, okay. Test of Talents.
So that's going to cut off. That's going to cut off that one.
Thanks to the Thieves Guild Enforcer there, and a bunch of creatures coming in, a bunch of mill, then an attack with the Soaring Thought Thief. And it can get kind of ugly kind of quickly, especially if Riku's if his library total ends up getting a bit low.
Yeah, no, it can get ugly, and it can get ugly pretty fast. But thankfully, that Test of Talents is there to kind of save the day. So looks like Jean-Emmanuel is going to try to figure out something here. It looks like we're going to actually fire up the Hive of the Eye Tyrant and say, how about the Red Zone? How's that sound? So
okay, here
they come. Well, at least thinking about sending everybody in. But again, this is kind of why the Cub Warden is so good in the matchup, is because some of these, not all of the creatures fly. Some of them are hanging out on the ground. Menace, you've got multiple creatures to be able to do some chump blocking there, all the other stuff. So Cub Warden, it might not seem like something you want in the sideboarded games against Dimir Rogues, but it's been good every time I've seen it this weekend in this matchup.
Yeah, agreed. And and it's supposed to be better in the other matchups too. So just constructed all-star Cub Warden. Who knew?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things is when you get really deep into a format and you're testing for a tournament like this, right? And these players with so much on the line, Worlds invites, all the money, we can talk about all the prestige, everything. that's when you really start digging through the files, right?
Oh yeah. For
okay,
sure.
so like what's the one weirdo I can find that no one's really ready for it? When they previewed Cupboard and everyone's like, hey, this card looks pretty good, hasn't really found a home, and this isn't the home I expected it to be in, but it's looked pretty darn good here.
Yeah, treasure tokens really opening up the floodgates for things like this, right? We need something that has 5 toughness, not more than 3 power, and is worth it, and they're like, well, we have this, but if we want to mutate it, it's double white. And it's like, we could probably do that. And it turns out you can. And the card's been really, really good. I mean, just simply the act of mutating here is generating huge advantage. 9 minutes about on the clock here for Riku Kumagai. Really does need to make sure that he closes out this game as quickly as possible. We're going to see Cling to Dust disrupt things a little bit here from Jean-Emmanuel's perspective.
And I'm glad that you brought up that time where we're at about 9 minutes, because this deck, while it can win pretty quickly, we are in a matchup where there's a lot of back and forth counterplay. There's really more often than not, the games aren't going to be straightforward, right? They're going to be decision laden, starting on the very first turn of the game. Back and forth, setting up mana bases, trying to resolve expressive iterations, picking fights with counter spells. So, if I'm Kumagai and I'm thinking about this game, I'm thinking, I need this one to be over about 8 minutes left. Maybe 8 minutes for game 3 with a World's Invite on the line.
Yeah, I think that feels safe. Like that you could under most conditions finish off a game, even with a pretty complicated combo deck like this, with 8 minutes, and you could feel like you could take the time a couple of times when you needed to and play briskly the other times. I mean, he's just going to win the game by just swarming on the ground with these cats at some point.
Yeah. I mean, this game is essentially over. Now, if I'm Jean-Emmanuel, yeah, of course you got to play it out. You got to finish your game. I'm not going to concede, but time is another opponent, an additional opponent, if you will. Now, Kumagai, again, he's going to win this game. Nothing's resolving. Nothing really matters at this point. Agadeem's Awakening will get unsubstantiated almost assuredly at this point.
Yeah, you can see Kumagai hovering over it, just waiting. Oh, I guess it was just for one at this time.
Well,
so
then fine.
You know what? Enjoy your Soaring Thought Thief, because I can just attack with all my creatures. Yes, you have a blocker. Chump, still takes 6. It's lethal.
All right, so 8-0. I'm going to call it 8:05.
Okay. You said you wanted 8.
I wanted 8.
I got it for you.
Okay.
Don't delay, my friend.
This is the way it should be, right? One game for it all right now.
God, it's so incredible.
This is what I love. This is what I love about competitive Magic. One game, infinite on the line, going to Worlds, ton of money. You got about 8 minutes to do it in if you're Kumagai. Both players in a very complex matchup that's very decision-laden. They're both fantastic.
What I was thinking about.
Amazing.
I was thinking that too, is that it's 8 minutes, but it's specifically because we're in the Rogues matchup, right? Like, it is a difficult, tricky matchup that they always just say go. You always have to be guessing at what they have in hand. And then there's that World Championship seat just sort of sitting over there in the corner like, hi, anybody want me? You can, and it really amps up the pressure in a very meaningful way on those type of decisions, where some of the matchups in Standard for this deck are a lot more like put the pedal to the metal, just like who's the first one to do a thing. And that's just not how this is going to play out. We are underway here in our last qualifier match. This is going to be Riku Kumagai or Jean-Emmanuel Depraz claiming that last seat at the World Championship. And I have to say, my heart's already starting to pound here for these two players. And I can't wait to see what happens. Let's see how this ends up playing out. Good little start here for Jean-Emmanuel. He's got Merfolk, Wind Robber, and can play Thieves Guild Enforcer. It looks like he may just go for the double Thieves Guild Enforcer here. This is an upkeep Thieves Guild Enforcer. Yeah, he's going to do another one.
This is actually really nice. So you get to play 2 of these. That means you've milled 6 cards, right? So now you're only a couple away from turning on Into the Story, which if you resolve your Merfolk Wind Robber, that's going to turn on Into the Story. And I had mentioned when the Ruin Crabs that got sideboarded out, this was a little bit of a concern of mine, is how easily are you going to be able to turn on Into the Story to be able to cast it on turn number 4? This particular game, it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to do. That also means that the Drown the Lock and future Drown the Locks are also going to be basically hard counters or hard removal spells. So as far as a starter is concerned, for Jean-Emmanuel, this is about as good as you can do.
This looks
another
beautiful here for Jean-Emmanuel. He says, hello, all the 1-drops here. Wind Robber is going to charge up these Thieves Guild Enforcers. They're going to get to attack for 6 damage, and Riku Kumagai's already at 14 with double Drown in the lock here for Jean-Emmanuel. This could be one of those rogue straws where Riku never gets to do anything.
Yep, and look at Riku's hand, right? It's a slow hand this game, and there are 2 hard counters in hand and Drown the lock. So you're going to try to resolve a creature? Okay, cool, that's countered. I'm going to play the tempo game with you now, right? I mean, this game, Marshall, honestly, this game is like essentially over. It's a 2-turn clock. Yeah, you already noted it, because this is 7. This is 7, counters, hard counter up, hardest of counters, and Drown the lock, and then try to kill you the next turn.
He needs to draw like a Fire Prophecy or something to go along with that Spike Field Hazard, because he needs to kill at least one of these creatures. If he cannot do so, it's over, and it doesn't look like he can.
So let's see. The Hazard can kill the Wind Robber.
Just counter it.
Right? Like you hazard it, I counter it with Drown the lock, I dispute your Drown the lock. I guess you can try to resolve this. This ain't happening. That's dead.
So this is similar. Because if Drown in the Lock hits this, then it unlocks the ability for Spike Field Hazard to kill the Wind Robber and buy you a turn.
And this is the complete opposite of how the last couple of games have gone. The last couple of games have been drawn out. You know, they've been long back and forth affairs, resolve expressive iteration, hit my land drops, build up a bunch of mana, try to build the perfect hand, also their stuff. And now you're getting ambushed by rogues in this game.
Absolutely ambushed here. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz is so close to victory here. He is very likely going to have his Merfolk Wind Robber killed. He's going to be able to get in for 6 and knock Kumagai to 1, and he's going to ask a very potent question. He's going to say, do you have a way to deal with both of these creatures or not? Because if you don't, and there's a Drown in the lock off the top of the library, that has to close the door on this, as Riku Kumagai can't resolve multiple spells this turn under any circumstance. And I guess he has to just go for Cub Warden, and there is Fine Disdainful Stroke to counter it, and that's going to clear the way for lethal. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz is back at the World Championship. Congratulations, Jean-Emmanuel.
That is some of the appeal of playing an aggro control deck.